Shalom Israel. First and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth in righteousness and sincerity. To you Israelite foreigners, come back home to the truth. To those that passed on serving the Lord, the dead in Yahweh Shai shall arise first. Doing this video to discuss something that struck me yesterday. I actually made this video about 4 times, but it just kind of didn't come out the way I wanted it to. So, plus I had to gather more information throughout the day because, as a lot of y'all know, I work with a lot of Issacharites that are from, Mexico. So, what I wanted to discuss is police brutality. Police brutality in America is different from police brutality in Latin America and in other countries, really. Because in other countries, you kind of know you're taking that L when the cops come. In Cuba, they can snatch your personal property away from you and get away with it. In Mexico, it's funny, if a dude is feeling himself, he'll and he tells a cop, let's shoot the one. They shoot the one-on-one. The cop will put his gun to the side and his gun and his badge, and he'll fight one-on-one with, the criminal or the whoever they're, pulling over, whatever the case may be. And if the cop wins, nothing happens. If the cop loses, then the other cops beat the guy's ass. But that's how law is practiced in our countries. And people do get killed by cops. I wouldn't say with as much frequency, because the big difference between policing in Latin America and policing in the United States of America is, if you're in Mexico, it stands to reason that the cop pulling you over is Mexican. If you're in Cuba, it stands to reason that the cop pulling you over is Cuban. So we have a certain sense of familiarity, where if you're in America, it's a very strong possibility that the cop that's pulling you over is a totally different ethnicity from you. And believe it or not, because they're a different ethnicity, they don't have the same level of understanding. So, because of that lack of familiarity between the different, races, or the supposed races, because then you also have Hispanic cops that pull over African Americans, so-called African Americans of the tribe of Judah, and vice versa. You have Hispanics getting pulled over by Judites that don't look at each other as the same race. So what happens is that it makes for a hostile environment, because, it's more born from a distrust and just, basically, I don't know that nigga, you know what I'm saying? So, you know how we are as Jake, if you don't know a nigga, you know what I'm saying, you're not gonna trust him. Hell, you know niggas and you don't trust them. So how much more do you think it is when you're a Latino who's been raised around Latinos and a black or a white cop, quote unquote, pulls you over? I've been fortunate to have a certain level of familiarity with so-called black cops, because I was raised around Judites. I wasn't really raised around Latinos like that. So I have familiarity and I can understand, so if I were a cop, Lord forbid, if I were a cop, it would be less likely for me to do anything harmful to a so-called black person or a Latino person, because of, number one, I'm Latino, and number two, I have familiarity with quote-unquote black people. Plus, being in the truth, I know that black people are my people. We're the same people. Just like they say, the difference between black, Jamaican, Cuban, Puerto Rican is a boat stop. So that's what that is. But like I said, in Latin America, it's different. In America, in the United States of America, what I notice is that cops are at a disadvantage. Because in other countries, like I said, police don't take losses in other countries. The only way you're going to take a loss as a cop is if you piss off a cartel. Which we don't have that in Cuba, but in Mexico, forget about it. In Salvador, forget about it. That's just what it is. Cops don't really take losses. Random stops, cops don't take losses. When a cop takes the losses, like I said, when they piss off somebody that's in power and they get assassinated, they don't get just regular shot in the street and shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's how it is. But in America, the thing is, the reason why encounters with the police are so hostile, in all honesty, is because you have all that freedom. I done seen videos of Jake telling cops, suck my dick, fuck you, and this, that, and the third. You know what I mean? So cops, unfortunately, and watching TV and watching how people of color are represented on TV, misrepresented rather, it makes for a situation where they automatically think, okay, this can turn out violent. And police officers don't get the respect that they get in other countries. Like I said, in Mexico, that's only if a motherfucker's really stupid enough, he'll challenge a cop to a one-on-one fight. And this is how it is. It's not a law. It's just how it is in Mexico. You know what I mean? As far as how it is in the United States, like I said, cops, as powerless as they are a lot of times, that gun is the great equalizer. And that's the reason why a lot of times, or their numbers are an equalizer, as in the case of George Floyd. The fact that you had 4 officers was their advantage over George Floyd to overpower him in order to kill him. That's just what it is. And a lot of times people don't really understand how much that power gets to their head, because cops have the same entitlement in every country, everywhere you go, as far as power. You give anybody a fucking badge and a gun, and they're gonna be fucking, all of a sudden they think they're the shit. They're Superman, right? But what happens in America is that Superman attitude, you got more than enough people that'll tell a motherfucker, and in America, you got guns in the hands of regular people. High-powered guns. But the main factor that's different between American policing and Latin American policing is the preordained notion of superiority and how it's respected. Because in America, you have people that will tell the police officer, you work for me. They will literally tell a cop, you work for me, you're my servant. Technically, they're right. But they're not really, that's not how the cops respect it. At the end of the day, they're the ones that are there to tell you what to do. So that's how that works out. But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is, policing is carried out that way in this country, and it's wicked, but that's just what it is. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.